Welcome to the Collector Chatter podcast. This is episode 6. I'm Miguel, aka Migs, and I'm here with my co-host Charlie. Charlie, what's going on, man? How was this week?
It was a good week. Good week. Once again, tons of news that I'm excited to talk about. In going to have a great episode talking about Grails, which is going to be a really topic that you and I have been going back and forth that we really want to talk about on this podcast. So I'm excited for that. But all in all, it's a pretty good week. How about you?
Nice. Yeah, it was pretty good. It flew by. I felt like news wise, we'll go into a few things. There wasn't a ton of drops. There was a kind of a mix of things, but we'll kind of go over some of those. There was some pretty cool news that's not necessarily a drop that we want to go over. That's definitely Funko related and hopefully will help a lot of the problems that we've been talking about the last few episodes. But in terms of this episode, it is going to mainly be Grails, like Charlie said. So we wanted to kind of talk about this for a little while, and whether it's just kind of to inform you guys, if you're new collectors, like what Grails are and kind of how you can get yourself Grails, etc. And maybe if you know about Grails, maybe we can teach you something new or whatever. But we'll go into that in a second. So we'll kind of go off of the drops first, just to kind of let you guys know this past week what was either rumored, what actually dropped, or what had like pre-orders and that kind of thing. And the first one I wanted to say was the Navy Pops finally did drop. So just to kind of, they're Pops with Purpose, I think is what they're calling them, as these these ones. And they came out with all the other branches. We had talked about it before. There was the Army, Air Force, and Marines. And now they just came out with Navy ones, which is really cool because my brother is actually in the Navy. So when the first ones came out, I was kind of like showing him and I was like, they got to come out with Navy ones. He's like, yeah, hopefully. And then when I sent them to him, he thought they were pretty cool, the detail and
Are you
that
gonna get?
the
Are you
different
gonna get
outfits
any
and
of
stuff.
them?
I don't know, maybe because of him, or maybe also get him one or something, because they seem pretty cool. I didn't get any of the other ones. I also don't have like a lot of that type of line
Exactly.
because I know they also have the like the first responders and that kind of stuff. So I mean, it seemed pretty cool. But yeah, I like that they actually drop ad military and all these kind of things. So now I'm hoping that they do maybe like firefighters and police and that kind of stuff, because I feel like they should be in pop form, the fact that they're not already. So I guess
No,
we'll
I
see
agree.
how that works.
Another thing that had came out this week was there's been this bounty hunter line that's been going on at GameStop exclusives from Star Wars. It's essentially like a movie scene from Empire Strikes Back where all the bounty hunters, Boba Fett being, the most popular one, lined up with Vader. I think this
Mhm.
is the final bounty hunter to drop in this line. There's one left, which I believe is going to be Darth Vader. I think
Oh, okay.
it's just funny because when this first got announced, I thought this line was pretty cool. Everyone's like, there's too many bounty hunters. Who's it going to be? So they haven't announced it yet, but I am pretty sure it's going to be Darth Vader, which I don't personally think he needed to be included in the line. There's so many
Yeah.
Vader pops, but it's still a pretty cool line. And they actually lend better out of box probably because
Yeah.
when you take them out, they're all kind of connect together. It's like a puzzle piece. So
Yeah. I was gonna ask you if you do you have the line,
it's
the
funny.
entire line?
I don't have all of them. I have some of them, which is kind of annoying. Like if I don't get them all, but we've
Yeah.
talked about this in the past, like GameStop pre-ordering, it's kind of a nightmare. And I just don't like to pay all their shipping. It's just a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
And then I've noticed though, I've been able to get them when they come out. Like I had pre-ordered the Boba Fett one when it first came out and it sold out instantly. And then like immediately it went back up and it's gone in and out of stock ever since for like months. So I was like,
Mhm.
you know what, if that one was going in and out, I would assume he's the most popular one. I just
Yeah.
like, when it comes out and I can get the free shipping from GameStop, I'll just get it. I don't think I'm gonna have an issue getting the whole collection.
Yeah. I figured it wasn't like, I feel like it's more of one of those lines that like if you're a really hardcore fan and you collect pretty much all Star Wars, that kind of stuff, it definitely fits. It seems like it's a cool one where they click together because they're
Exactly.
basically like a whole scene. But in box, I'm sure it's kind of insane because those boxes seem pretty big
They're
to
big
have
for no
not
reason.
not out of
Yeah.
box.
Kind of just like the last week when I showed that Iron Man pop. There
Yeah.
it's like a deluxe type box, but there's just a ton of extra room in it. I actually thought they were going to be way bigger when I first like pre-ordered the Boba Fett one. And when I got it, I was a little, I mean, it's still really cool, but I was a little disappointed that it was pretty much same size as a normal pop.
Yeah, I think they've done a few of those. Marvel did like the Avengers one, and then they did like the shawarma scene
Yeah, I
where
have
it's kind
the
of like
yeah,
connect them and stuff.
I have the Avengers scene, the whole collection, but the shawarma one I didn't go after. I just was like, I don't know. I didn't think they looked that cool.
Yeah, I don't have any of those, but I figured this one you probably
Yeah.
did have. So that was a cool thing that dropped. Disney also had a pretty big drop. So there is a new movie, Disney movie Encanto, which is going to be based in a Colombian. So it's based in Colombia. Essentially, Encanto means like enchantment. So basically, based off the trailer, at least, it seems like
Yep.
everyone has these special powers and certain,
It's made by
special
Lin
things that they
Manuel
do, right?
Miranda, which is pretty cool.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, I
That
think from what I've gotten from the trailer, it seems like everyone kind of has a special power besides the main character.
the main character,
But
yeah.
I'm assuming she's gonna learn what it is throughout the movie. It's probably like a
Yeah,
coming of
of
age.
course.
Yeah,
It's one of those. It seems really cool, and because Lin-Manuel has his hands in it, music's gonna be amazing in it, and of course
exactly.
it's gonna be a big musical type of
And he did
Disney
all
movie.
the music for it, so it's like
Yeah,
a big deal. I mean, I'm a big Disney fan regardless, but because he's in it, I definitely think it's going to be really good.
yeah, I'm excited for that one. It's definitely one of those big ones. I know the Colombian community, it's a huge deal because it's like them kind of being portrayed, which is going to be really cool in a Disney aspect. But they did drop, they basically showed off. I think they went on pre-order. If not,
Yeah,
yeah. So they announced the pre-order. I think it was about like 7 pops, I want to say, the last time I looked. And it's essentially like all the characters, but I know we've discussed this before where it's one of those weird drops that like the movie's not out yet. We see all these characters that we don't really know them, we don't know their names, we don't know anything about them, or there's the way they're dressed and the things that they may have in the figures might kind of spoil things or maybe not. But it's kind of one of those confusing lines that's like, do you wait, do you watch the movie, do you see if you like the movie, and then you go after the actual pops? And I know we both kind of said we were waiting regardless, but it does seem pretty cool, especially if you're a big Disney collector. And once the movie does come out, if you end up really liking the movie. But it is one of those weird things, right? Like you
yeah,
gotta like hope that you're gonna like it, or maybe you don't want to get every character. I don't know. It's a little weird to drop all of them that soon. I just think the timing was a little off with the actual drop, in my personal opinion.
no, I totally agree. Another big thing that I know they announced this week, not exactly Funko, but I'm a big fan of them and they're really cool. They came out with a Mandalorian line of retro figures, and they're based off the
Yep.
original Kenner action figures that came out in the 70s and the 80s. So I think that this is the second wave of Mandalorian that they've made in this line. So this is kind of
Okay.
mostly from characters from season 2. So if anyone who knows those original action figures from the original Star Wars, they look just like that. So they're
Yeah.
really cool, and it's a pretty cool throwback. So I'm pretty excited for those. They look pretty cool. I'll probably want to get a few of them.
Yeah, I saw that line. It was a pretty decent sized line too. The ones, I think they dropped like 6 or so of them, and they have that real retro feel action figure. Where I always thought, I don't collect action figures like that. Like obviously besides Funko stuff like this.
Yep.
So I always wondered, like, if you do collect them, because obviously I'm sure you have majority of them. My other question is, they're usually in those like flat boxes
Yeah,
with the
card.
small little thing, right? So like, what do you do with those? Because you don't have hooks and you're not displaying them on walls like you see in a store. So is it just sitting in a box? Do they kind of just
For the ones that I have, I kind of have a shelf where I'll kind of just pin them up against the wall. I don't
yeah,
have like a ton of them like that. Most of the action figures these days are, and once again, Funko is my big collection as well. I do get a few
yeah,
Star Wars action figures here and there, and a lot of them come in boxes though now, kind of like a
okay,
Funko. So you can kind of stack them, or you can take some of them
yeah,
out and you can pose them, and you can kind of put them back in. They still look like they never got taken out of the box, which I
yeah.
like, compared to like those old ones. Like you're saying, the moment you rip that off the cardboard, it's ruined.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always felt like when it came to collectibles and toys, when people would talk about like value and stuff, you always think of those really old ones, and that's the style, the action figure. And it was always those things that like it had to be mint in the box. And it was because it was like the second you open it, you can't, it rips the cardboard. There's no way of
Exactly.
putting it back. And then value wise, those things basically were worth nothing once it's just a figure not in that box. So I found that kind of interesting that they're still releasing stuff in that style. Maybe that's why it's like retro
I
that
think
they're
it is.
calling it.
That's part of the reason.
But it seems pretty cool. I think being newer figures, newer shows, but in that style, I think would be pretty cool.
And they're
But yeah,
actually,
that
just
was it. That was awesome.
to go off that real quick though, too. So what Disney is doing now with Star Wars, every week they're actually going to be dropping new collectibles all the way up leading
Yes.
to Christmas. Kind of, they're not only going to be Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett, but it's kind of celebrating leading up to the Book of Boba Fett. So I'm assuming between this time period, we're going to start seeing a bunch of Funko products for that new show. And
Yeah.
I think we'll get a lot. It'll probably be a pretty big line.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know they're probably gonna drop all their stuff through the figures that they normally do, but I was wondering how that was gonna intertwine with Funko themselves. Like, basically, I mean, we haven't seen anything for Book of Boba Fett yet, right? Except for maybe that scene.
Yeah,
No, that's
which
actually
it's
technically that's
actually
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. Yep.
Yeah, so we really haven't seen anything yet. So I'm assuming they'll hold off, probably not to spoil things when it comes to that big of a show. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that, like, what else comes out Star Wars wise with Funko and that kind of stuff. But speaking of Star Wars, so I know this is basically like a rumor, but there is some leaks and stuff of a Mandalorian artist series that's going to be releasing. So I know we both dislike the artist series genuinely, usually, when it comes to some of these. Sometimes I feel like they look okay, but overall, I don't know. There's not a picture of what it's going to look like. Like, if it's going to be something that's a painted looking thing, or if it's going to be like logos. I feel like that's when it gets kind of like too corny, like when it's just the logos. So I guess we'll see. But that was something that was just like a quick little, like, supposed to be coming out. And then there was also a Beauty and the Beast line that is also rumored to be coming out, which I know you actually were broke that news by somebody
by my wife. I'll give Nikki a shout out. She was like, hey, did you see they're coming out with new Beauty and the Beast pops? And I'm like, because our son's name is Chip, so she really likes to collect a lot of, like, I mean, she's not a big collector at all, but she has like the Mrs. Potts Funko and the Chip Funko.
Okay.
So weirdly enough, though, they're not in this new line. It's mostly, it seemed like Belle the Beast was like a movie moment. I think the pictures I saw and a few of the other characters. I think it's an anniversary for the movie. It's why they're coming out. We're hitting a lot of those like 90s Disney classics. They're coming up with like anniversaries, and it seems like they keep dropping lines for that, because I know they did it for Little Mermaid. So they're now doing it for Beauty and the Beast, and I'm sure they're going to keep milking that line from here on out to get new molds.
Oh yeah, Disney as general is obviously so big, but when it comes to like the princesses and that specific, like, they're always, whether they just rip out a different outfit or make it glitter,
there's so many doing it. It's like crazy how many of the princess pops there are.
Yeah, so I mean, there's going to be another one. So I guess we'll see. There are some pretty hardcore Disney collectors that I follow, that I know that they collect that specifically. So it's going to be interesting to see them grabbing that kind of stuff. But that was pretty much overall like news drops, not news, because we do have some pretty cool news that we wanted to kind of go in depth about. So in terms of news, there was something that kind of ties along with what we've been talking about with Funko. So Funko just recently signed a lease to an enormous, it's actually 863,000 square foot facility, and it's actually located in Buckeye, Arizona, which is like basically Phoenix. It's one of the outside little suburbs of Phoenix. And they are supposedly going to be there starting early 2022. So come next year, they'll be there. Now, the only thing is there's not details on if it's going to be for distribution or if they're going to use it for manufacturing. But I feel like regardless, it should be a plus, them having this huge, facility for them to use. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know we've been talking about obviously problems that are bigger than Funko, just based off of having issues with distribution and that kind of stuff. So
I do think this is going to solve a lot of the problems that we've talked about in the past. I think it probably will be a distribution center, but they'll probably also manufacture some stuff there as well, but mainly probably distribution. And they'll I'm wondering though, if, they'll start making a lot more of the commons and whatnot, and you're always going to get a chance to get them. They won't necessarily, not saying that everything is limited, but I feel like there may be more of those to go around, and we'll probably keep, as crazy as this may sound, they're going to start popping out more and more and more product, because they're going to have the distribution line to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if they go the whole quantity over quality thing, like basically if that's what they take this as, I think this probably won't be a good thing for us, because we already know that right now, obviously, quantity is an issue with just not getting certain things out and things being delayed. But I think that quality wise, there's still a lot of issues that we deal with like
Yes.
things coming damaged, things coming completely incorrect, like sodas coming in the complete wrong can, like a lot of stuff that's just not being checked, I feel like is happening. So having a bigger area like this, if they just strictly focus on, spitting out even more common stuff just to have the quantity out there, I think that would kind of not be beneficial to them. Like they may look at it like, all right, we're just going to put out even more things. But I hope that it's used for getting more of these things that they're in the works, and maybe they're just not able to get them out fast enough just to give them that avenue. But it's interesting either way. I know once I saw it, I was like, wow, this is actually pretty cool, because them having another facility should be a benefit. So hopefully, it works out. For if it's a manufacturing one, I mean, that would be pretty cool too, because then obviously they can just make more of
And
the
make more
stuff
in
that
the
they're not able
US, I'm
to.
assuming.
And
So
right in the US, yeah.
yeah.
So it's interesting because right now I don't know if I know for sure where everything is manufactured. Do you? Is it all
I
overseas?
I think most of it's overseas. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it is, I mean, all overseas and they have something in the US, that'd be interesting. But if it is all overseas, it probably means this is going to be distribution. I doubt they would then just suddenly
Yeah,
have a
probably.
location to
It
make
could also
make
maybe be
stuff here.
more, I mean, I know they're located in Washington, but it could be some
Yeah.
more offices for, other, jobs. I mean, it's definitely going to create
Yeah.
a bunch of jobs, which
It's
is
a
kind of
huge
cool.
facility.
Yeah.
So
And even they may, who knows, maybe they have a storefront there too. Like I kind of wish there was more Funko stores in general. Like I think there's been
yeah.
rumors, and not to get off topic, I don't know if you ever heard this, but obviously they have the big store in Washington and Hollywood. I heard one's coming to New York City.
I've heard of that too. And I don't know if that was just something that was ever talked about or rumored or whatever it is, but I have heard that. I think it would make absolute sense because both of their big headquarters are in the West Coast. So, like, put one on
Exactly.
the East Coast, and New York being as popular and as big as it is, I think it just makes the most sense. If they want to throw one somewhere in the Midwest or down south or something, would be cool too. But I agree with you. They definitely should do, whether it's like an actual just store that is Funko only, or if it's one of these like headquarter, like another corporate office type of thing, but they have a small storefront. I think that would definitely be like beneficial to, I mean, us as collectors on the East Coast, because we
Yeah.
can't go out
But I
unless we
mean,
take trips.
but quite frankly, I mean, New York City is a perfect place for it. I mean, I know it's gone, things aren't the same since the pandemic, but I mean, though, if anyone has ever either been to the one in Hollywood and Washington or have seen pictures, I mean, it's almost like an amusement, little bitty amusement, like Instagram session to take all of these different pictures. I mean, there's
Yeah.
life-size pops, they have scenes, like there's all different lands in there, and then all the merchandise is kind of structured in, like there's a Star Wars section, a Harry Potter section, Marvel. Like I think that's like made for New York City. Like, and
Yeah.
exactly. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
we could easily go, and it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you think of like these big, huge corporations and people that have like stuff in Times Square, like M&M's as an entire building that's only M&M's, and it's like it would totally be something that even if you weren't a Funko necessarily collector, you could still take kids or take people there. I'm sure it could be something
Yeah,
that would be
it would help.
entertaining.
Not that the brand needs help, but I feel
Yeah.
like some people who don't know Funko are just walking or tourists are like, oh, what is this? It's like, it looks cool, I should check it out.
Yep. I think it would totally be, yeah, tourist wise. Oh, absolutely. It'd be huge to have something in New York. So maybe that was something that was going to happen. Maybe the pandemic kind of has been messing with that. Who knows? Because now at this point we're almost 2 years in, so it could have been something that has been really delaying it. But I did hear that rumor. I mean, if you guys know, let us know. If you guys heard anything about this, you can comment on the video down below to let us know. But that kind of ties up the news and the drops, because it's not the craziest drop week. I think they're probably kind of going to be getting a little bit heavier soon coming into the holidays. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this holiday season goes with Funko. I don't know how it's going to go, because shopping wise already seems like it's going to be a different year for
Yeah.
us with distribution of stuff. So it's going to be interesting with Funko. But I do know there's a lot of stuff that's been announced that we're still waiting to actually drop. So that's going to be interesting. Like a lot of the Halloween stuff, like the Freddy Funko Soda Halloween
Yeah.
still has not dropped. So we're still waiting for that.
Yeah.
And
The Mickey one never came out, I don't think, yet either. The Vampire Mickey, right?
nope. Yep.
Yeah, so it's
Yep,
like all
Vampire
those Holly
Mickey,
ones. Like
Vampire Freddy.
this goes back to like stuff we said in the past. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll still want them, but like you want to have that like before Halloween. Like it
Yeah.
just like after Halloween passes, like I mean, you still want it for your collection, but it's like, how are you missing? And those they were announced so long ago.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. They usually go a few months back, and we're gonna be waiting on that, and all the Christmas announcements are gonna be ones that we have to like wait for and see if they drop on time. But I know that that kind of shifts into something that you wanted to kind of go over. I wanted you to talk about this because we talked about it before, but before we get into the Grails, it kind of ties into the Grails. But I know you wanted to talk about your experience with going out there because you have gone
yeah.
to, what was it, Funko Hollywood is the one?
Well, no, actually, so I've never been to Funko Hollywood. I actually went to, I can give the whole story, but it was a place in San Diego.
Okay,
So
yes.
they have an office in San Diego, which, it's, I think they, do more of, well, I found out they do more of some of the apparel type projects
Mm,
are kind of heading over there. And Mike Becker, he is the one who is in that office. And
okay.
so, and I think at that point, when he came back to the company, when Brian brought him back on, he kind of, he's the one who came up with a lot of the ideas of like, let's start making cereal, let's start making t-shirts, let's start making like all of the things that weren't just the figures. So
Hmm.
to give you the story, me and my wife were actually, we weren't supposed to be in San Diego. We were going out there just for a wedding when we had planned a trip, and something happened and we ended up spared the moment. It was like, okay, let's just stay actually in San Diego in the city for a little bit. And one night we were walking to dinner and all of a sudden I was like, oh my god, there's a Funko like building right there, like their logo is like smack on there. There was, it doesn't have like the huge life-size Funkos that you're seeing in the Hollywood store, the one in Washington, but there was a bunch through the window. You can kind of see, you remember the Dorbs
Yeah.
line? They
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
all like in the window and they were huge. And then I noticed, I'm like, let me look this up. I didn't know there was a store, and like the store front didn't come up. So that's when I realized, oh, it must just be an office.
Oh,
And,
okay.
couldn't do anything about it. It was kind of cool and it was dark. So had dinner, whatever. The next day, we're getting ready to leave. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to go get my picture in front of this place. Like, it's cool. Like, what are the odds? So we park and we actually, we get in the meter and we put in barely like enough money just to go get that picture and leave. So I'm like, it's out there. My wife's taking a picture of me, and all of a sudden this guy comes up to me and he's like, would you like me to take a picture of you guys? And I'm like, sure. And then like my wife starts explaining, oh, my husband's like a huge Funko fan, and like kind of like this guy probably thinks we're whack jobs. Like, why are we taking a picture of this like building?
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know if you know, but a Funko documentary is coming out. I'm actually the director. So he's like, of course I know
Wow.
everything about Funko. And he goes, I actually have a meeting with Mike. And I mean, I knew who he was because I'm a huge fan. And he goes, let's go knock on the door. So knocks on the door, and this story sells like such an awesome experience. He comes out and he's like, oh my god, and he's like, here, this is Charlie and Nikki, they're huge fans, and would you mind if I get a picture with you? He goes, I have something better, come on in. He just is like, brings me into this building. I mean, it was legitimately, I felt like Charlie from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Ironically, my name is Charlie. So I get in there and I'm like, this place was awesome. It was like, life-size figures. I mean, there's people in there working, just like, he actually is like, there's a lot of new top secret stuff that's going on. And he's like showing me, I mean, obviously this is years ago now, but this is when they were
Yeah.
creating the cereal. So that wasn't out yet. That's actually when I found out they were making that soda, Funko soda, like not the collectibles, but actual like soda pop.
Oh, okay.
He was making a commercial with Elvira in there to like announce some of this stuff. And once again, it was just so awesome. He's like introducing me to everyone in there. I'm seeing them legitimately designing Funko Pops, like for licenses, like right in front of
That's
me on their
awesome.
computers. We talked for a bit, and all of a sudden my wife's like, oh, we're just gonna, if we get a ticket or a car gets towed, it was like a rental car. It's like, whatever. I'm like, I'm not asking this guy to leave to like go put money into the meter. We were there for like, I feel like almost an hour. He's taking pictures
Wow.
with me, showing me all the stuff, and then, kind of say our goodbyes. And he goes, before you leave, let me get you something. He legitimately comes out with, and I don't know if anyone's who's ever been to the cons, like the Funko will give you these like huge reusable bags. I mean, like they're like this big, just filled with swag. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe how much stuff this guy gave me, to the point where I was like, I didn't know how I was getting it home. Like I almost needed
Yeah, it's
legitimately a
true.
suitcase just for all this free stuff he gave me. And like Miguel said, we're gonna lead. I kind of want to tell this story because it's leading into Grails. And I know at the end of the episode we kind of normally show pops, but I'm just gonna show mine now since it's part of the story. I mean, he gave me so many Freddy Funkos, which, as everyone knows, I mean, they're highly sought after and collectible. I mean, this is a 450
Mm-hmm.
limited edition Freddy Funko as a Martian. This happened to be like one of my favorite pops that he had given me. Its value right now, I think, is $450. And this is just like one of the ones that he just decided to give me, because he's like, you're a huge fan. Like, I'm so, like, he couldn't have been any
Wow.
nicer. He was so cool. I mean, he really was like, this kid's a huge fan, and like, this is why we're as popular as we are. And I couldn't speak any higher of him. He's one of the coolest dudes I've ever met in my entire life. So it was like a once in a lifetime
Yeah.
experience that I'll never forget.
That's so sick. I mean, that's such a crazy story to like just
I
tell
know.
in general, even if you didn't get much out of it, just the fact that he brought you in there and you got
Yeah,
to
I didn't
meet
think I'd
him
get
and see
anything when he
everything.
was giving. Oh, and then actually, here's another thing he gave me, which I brought down. I totally forgot. This hadn't come out yet. He signed it for me
Oh,
and my
nice.
wife. And he gave me a bunch of the cereal, which I honestly still have never. I just have the boxes with the Funkos inside them. I never opened
Yeah.
them, but who knows what that cereal is
Yeah, at
probably
this
rotting
point,
in
you don't
there.
even want to,
But
yeah, you
it
don't
was
want to eat that.
just, once again, it was just like super cool. I didn't expect to get anything out of it, just to get to go. I mean, no one, it's not like it's a store. Like, if you didn't work for the company, you weren't ever going to even get to go in there. So it definitely seems like an awesome place to work.
Yeah. That
So yeah.
That's awesome. So that seems super super cool, man. Like just the story is obviously crazy, but it leads into like the Grail talk, like you said, because that's a Grail you're going to show off today. So we're going to get into the Grails. Basically, we kind of want to just break things down in terms of like what are Grails and that kind of thing. So I wanted to start by saying like the levels of Grails, right? So we all know there's basically different terms and different ways to like describe a grail. If you guys don't know, essentially a grail, if you're new to Funko or collecting, essentially what a grail is something that's usually very valuable or very like hard sought after pop that just has a lot of value, or it's not being sold anymore, etc. And they consider it like a grail. Right now, have heard of a couple different ways of I've heard the term mid grail, like when I would go
Yeah.
on auctions and stuff, people think mid grail. It basically would say like a pop 40, 50, 70, maybe up to $80. Normally you feel like a grail is something that's like over $100.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of what everyone would say is. Some people could have a grail that's a little bit less, but that's genuinely what you hear. And then there's like the mega grails, which are ones obviously in the thousands and things that are super limited, and you're probably more than likely not going to get all your hands on them. But that's kind of like the breakdown of those. However, there are obviously personal grails, and then there's the grail that's just worth a lot of money, right? So I know that there
Exactly.
could be a pop that maybe is just like your favorite and you have sentimental value to it, you can call it a grail. But I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think like makes something a grail? Obviously, it ends up being a grail because of the value, but like, what makes it a grail? Like, it's interesting to think because I've seen some grails that I'm like, obviously, and then I see some pops and I'm like, why is that a grail? Or other pops and I'm like, why is this not a
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. So it's like they're all over the place. For a lot of them, I feel like they're based on bigger IPs, and
grail?
a lot of them, in my opinion, just have low piece counts. I
Yeah.
know a few of ones that like a huge grail for me is they came out in San Diego Comic-Con, a Funko of the Sith Trooper, which was in the last Star Wars movie, Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, and they made it only you could only get it at Comic-Con and only at the show, and that's obviously when things were normal, and it was extremely low. I mean, I was just looking it up, like its value right now is a little over $1,100, and it only came
Yeah.
out a few years ago. And like, I actually was shocked that this ended up being as limited as it was. It's funny, it's a pop that I kind of felt like should have been a common. And it's weird
Yeah.
because sometimes they will, like, when this first came out, they announced it as like a first look, or like, there's been a few times, I don't know if that's the correct term, but it's like, we're going to have this at a con first, but it's going to have a special sticker, but it's not limited. Like, it's just a special sticker, and it will
Mhm.
then come out later in the common series. They've said that, if there's not many, but I know they said that about this. They had said it about, I remember I collect a few Doctor Who pops, and when Jodie Whittaker became like the first, female doctor, she got a pop at a con, and it was kind of like, oh, it's being released here first with the special sticker. It wasn't like part of, a shared retailer or whatnot. And then
Mhm.
later on, we come out with one that's a common that's basically exactly the same. And
Yeah.
those just have super high value because of that. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, this could have just been a normal pop. There's nothing really special about it. Where I
Yeah.
know there's other Star Wars ones, like probably my top girl, which I think I may have talked about before, is a Boba Fett pop of him from this cartoon from the 80s, where it's one of his first appearances, and it's from the Star Wars show Droids. That's
Mhm.
old. It's, in my opinion, it's special. It's not like a normal look for him. That, to me, like, I look at girls like that, it's hard to get. It's not common by any means in terms of like the style or what it's from. And but other ones are, yeah, they're just totally random pops that like I have no interest in, and they're worth all this money. It's all over them. I'm going in a tangent because it's really all over the place.
Yeah. It really is though. It's interesting they say that because it's like it's confusing because so I think there's like a few reasons obviously. So one thing is obviously let's say the limited that limited quantity of it pretty much will automatically make something considered a grail. So like I know it seems like they kind of stopped doing this, but when there was actual cons going on, you go to a San Diego Comic-Con and get an actual pop that was at the con, you're looking at a Freddy Funko, for instance, that only has 40 pieces or 20 something pieces. Like that automatically is so limited that clearly it's going to skyrocket in price because it's going to be that everyone's going to want it and there's just not going to be many out there. So that automatically will make something a grail. But then we have a lot of times certain pops that, for one way or the other, turn out to become grails because just like little by little, their values skyrocket based off of a few things. I mean, I think sometimes if the show is popular or character it becomes popular, or if it's like a person or a character who was portrayed by somebody who passes away, sometimes that affects it. If it was exclusive with stickers, I know sticker sometimes matters. Like there's so many different factors to it, but I think ultimately a lot of the times it's the market itself that kind of can sway it as well. Because I know we see sometimes these pops, like one of the ones that I think of like right off the bat is like the Blacklight Carnage, right?
Yeah.
That was a pop that came out. Everything, all these things are usually coming out at retail price, right? So they came out as a retail price of regular drop through Target, I believe, right?
Yep.
And it like sold out so fast. And then I don't know if they restocked it, and maybe they did one other time, whatever. And then all of a sudden, everyone wanted it because it was at the perfect time that black lights were already being sold and were already pretty popular, and they look really cool. It's a cool looking mold, but it just got so expensive to buy on the reseller market that it just automatically bumped the price up because people were paying so much money. And then eventually it settles at a price where it's like, all right, this is where it's always being valued and no one's buying it for less. And then it automatically becomes a grail because now at that point you're looking at $200-300 pop that just kind of came out of nowhere. And like I personally I saw it and I probably didn't even think to buy it because I was like, it's pretty cool. But I didn't think it was gonna be that crazy.
Yeah.
It was weird.
I totally agree with you. That is such a random one. And there's even been times, like, I know, not to go back to the cons, but I think a lot of times it has to do with maybe a character, and there's never been a Funko of them before. So anyone
Yeah.
who is a fan of the Clone Wars, there's a really popular clone character called Captain Rex. There never been a Funko of him from the series. It happened to be a New York Comic Con one a few years ago. And like, to me, perfect exclusive pop. And the fans have been wanting it, but it was
Hmm.
no different than any other con exclusive that normally it was also a shared retailer. I know I pre-ordered it from Hot Topic. That one got canceled on me for some reason. And all of a sudden it seemed like that one became super rare. I've never had an issue getting like a shared retailer that I wanted. Like if I wanted it, I probably
Yeah.
could get it. And that one all of a sudden just out of nowhere became a grail for people. Its value has skyrocketed. And no, I don't think anyone really expected that to happen for this pop, and like why this one versus any of the other ones that came out during that time. And I guess it goes back to maybe just
It's
the
so weird.
popularity of the character, and there never been one of it and everyone wanted it. It's not like it was a new pose or something. It's like this is the only Captain Rex from Clone Wars Funko Pop they make. I think that helps too, because I can talk a lot about the
Yeah.
Star Wars one because it's my favorite number one line, but they also came out with the Qui-Gon Jinn one, which it only came out at a con as well. And there's no other Funkos of him. It's impossible to get. I wasn't able to get it. Amazon recently just came out with a new one from like one of their new lines they're doing with Funko called Across the Galaxy. It is a new mold where the other one's kind of the older ones where they're kind of just like standing there with no action.
Hmm.
But once again, I'm telling myself now what does make some Grails. There's no other
That,
pops of him. So you don't have any other option to get another mold, another pose. Like that is it.
yeah, that to me makes sense. Like having something that has never been a pop before. But the thing is like what'll happen too is that make a new one and it's just a normal common pop. And it doesn't become a grail, or it isn't, it's the only one they've ever made, but it's not a grail.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's interesting to see. I guess a lot of it has to do with popularity, like beyond us, like just how many people really out there really want it, and what is the demand for that versus how many are they even making of these. Because it's interesting to see, like when you see a sticker that says something is limited to a certain piece count, most pops don't have that. I feel like it's very limited ones that are in cons and that kind of thing that you'll see a piece count. I think that's what's a cool thing that I like about sodas is that everyone is limited to a certain piece count. So you know how many there are out there, you know how rare they are. So that will obviously automatically affect the value. But when it comes to pops, the ones that don't have that, they still have some sort of piece count. If you really think about it, it's just obviously a bigger number because eventually they become vaulted, and vaulted pops basically is when they stop making it at all. They're not going to restock it ever again. They're not going to redo the mold with like a newer box, whatever. It's essentially done with, like it's an old pop. And I feel like those have some sort of a limit to them, right? Like you would think, especially some of the older ones, because I'm assuming they weren't pumping out as many pops,
No, they
even that were
definitely weren't.
common as
Yeah,
now, right?
exactly.
So, so that's going to affect like some of these like Grail pops and that kind of thing when it comes to, you know, something it's going to be really hard to find. And I feel like a lot of pops that I see that are considered Grails, or, you know, even just like the lower end of Grails, are these kind of pops that like there's not too many of them out there. They're popular, they're a cool mold, they're a popular character or movie or show, whatever it is. And people just hold on to them and don't want to sell them so often. So once you see them being sold, so many people want to get it. That's like affecting that, like the value of it. And it essentially is automatically making it a grail. But it's confusing to me because PPG is not, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not something that's actually through Funko, right? It's
No, it's
kind of,
not.
it's a whole side thing.
They
Okay.
just
So
support it, I guess, because they do put it in
yeah.
their official app.
Yes. So, which makes sense. And it's basically what, if you guys don't know Pop Price Guide, I would say it's PPG is what we all kind of use as like, I would say kind of like a template ballpark to get an idea. It's never the only thing, but it's for the most part, the only way you can get a value for something for pretty much every pop and have it be what everybody can see consistently. But what that may say is or isn't a grail isn't necessarily what it's selling for all the time. And the only reason why I say that is because there's one pop, and like it's back here, so it's the Billy Pop here from Saw. So this is one of my favorite pops. I'm a huge horror fan. So that's a pop that I want to say maybe PPG right now is like $70, maybe. I've seen it get down to 60, maybe up to 80. It pretty much sits there. There's a glow in the dark, like bloody version that's really high PPG, sells for an insane amount of money. But this pop, if you ever see it in auctions, people are paying in the hundreds.
Yeah, I don't get
And
that.
it's like, it's not PPG'd at that, but it's like, oh, well, this is going to sell for this. And it's like, and then you hear the people say like, well, PPG is not real. It's not whatever. And it's like, but if it's selling at that value and the value is never going up, it's obviously also being sold for cheaper. So it's weird because I don't want to get into a tangent, but I know a lot, especially with horror pops. I know a lot of that PPG value sometimes does get affected by fakes. And that's a whole nother, insane topic with fakes being sold for 20, 30, $40 for a Grail that should be 200, 250. So like that I get, and it makes sense, but I don't know. It's just like, it's a weird thing. Like what makes things Grails and what though, like we know essentially what makes it a Grail, but it's kind of more, I guess the question is more like, what do you guys think is a reason for a very specific type of pop? Because it could be anything. Like we see Grails in Star Wars, we see Grails in Marvel, we see Grails that are cartoon animations that are like things you would never think would be not super popular. Well, you wouldn't think they were super popular, and they become Grails. So it's interesting like how that works. And I feel like the only reason why I brought up the Carnage one is because that's something very new that we know that's a Grail. If you want to get that, you're paying a few $100s, like easily. No one's getting rid of it for less than that price. And I feel like it skyrocketed so fast and it just stayed at that price. And then they stopped like reselling it. So that kind of keeps it there versus where the Venom Blacklight dropped. Same thing happened. Drops it at those t-shirt bundles, I think are what, like $30
Yep,
retail.
$30. Yep.
I want to say
25, 30.
Comes with a t-shirt. Yeah, 20, 25, 30, something like that. And instantly, once they sold out, people were selling them for 100, 150. And that was like the price. And I was like, well, this is a Grail now, and it's never going to be found. And then Funko restocks it, which gives you more of this cheap retail value. And then now it's kind of, I have it, and it's sitting at like 60. So like, yeah, it's like that mid-Grail thing, whatever. It's awesome because it's now not being sold again, but it gets affected by that. So it's interesting, like the term Grail and like what might be in that term. A personal Grail is very different. I mean, I'm sure you have a ton of personal Grails that are just like a reason why you like that. One of the first pops you showed us, the Kevin Smith one.
Exactly.
Like I'm sure like that's you had it signed, right?
I did. Yep.
Obviously being signed is different because that's going to affect value, but you can't really give an actual price to it, I feel like sometimes. But like, let's say that wasn't signed, it still would have been an awesome personal Grail to you, but it probably wouldn't have been PPG valued super high.
No,
I would assume. But it's still like something that you like, you personally like love it, and it fits like your collection and that kind of thing. So it's interesting when it comes to like Grails and that side of things. But yeah, I just think it's crazy that some of these small vinyl figures can be thousands. Like you said, there was one that thousands of dollars some of these go for it, and we're not talking about just hundreds anymore.
I know when I tell people that, they're like, what? Like, I'll never forget, like, and I've mentioned on this podcast before, my cousin, he's a big collector as well, and like, I don't know, like it got like there's been times where like we've given each other pops for presents or whatever, and like we're around family, and I just look at my grandmother, just like, why are you guys getting those toys? And it's just like, and like he's like, he definitely goes after a lot of Grails, and he's like, he does collect to get like limited ones. Not, I know we all do, but like that's like his specialty. I mean, he has some ones that are worth a lot of money. When you tell someone like that, it just like it blows people's minds. And so many of these, Funko is becoming more and more, some of them are so old and now they're such a popular company. Like I know I have some of the original Star Wars line ones, which then I was just like, these are cool, I want them. And now, they've been vaulted, they're retired, they're like the old original look where like people don't realize. I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably do because you're a fan, but the beginning pops like all kind of look the same. Now they're like really
very
deep, like
bulky,
like, the same eyes.
Looking, right?
Like there wasn't as much detail as like they really get into detail now. but those were commons because they're old now and you can't get them anymore. They're, considered grails to certain people. Like I have the original
Mhm.
Vader and like Luke Skywalker, which I remember when I first started collecting them, one of the only real places that had them was Barnes and Noble. I would go to Barnes and Noble and I'd, pick up some of these, and you know, some of my friends, family, they knew I liked them. And yeah,
Yep.
they were just there. You got them for like $8.99, $10. And now they're
Yeah.
worth a lot of money because no different than like I know the Joker bank robber that you have that we've talked about.
Yep.
Like you could have just gotten that normally, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden that's super valuable.
It really is. It blows my mind that like when I start to look at like, because obviously we use the Funko app, which is great because you can input all your stuff in there. Like I use it so I can see value, of course, get an idea, but I also like that, if you have a pop or if you don't, or like just to keep the collection, how many you have in your collection, that kind of thing. And like my personal collection is interesting because it's pretty big. Like I want to say I feel like I probably have some stuff missing in there, but I want to say I'm close to like 900 actual, and that's counting sodas and pops in there. Value wise, pretty good, obviously, with 900 of them, but I don't have like the craziest, most expensive ones. Like I showed off my bank robber jumper is the most valuable pop that I own, and that's like five something. And then the one I'm going to show today is my second most valuable, which is like three something, and then it kind of drops. I have a couple like 200, and then majority of them will be like in the 60s, 70s, and then it's just like pretty normal common price, 40, 50, and then less. So like I have a lot of stuff that's not necessarily worth a ton. It's just that I guess I have a lot of them, so they add up. But like your cousin, I'm sure he has like top valuable things, and I just never was able to I didn't collect early enough on to get a lot of this stuff, which I'm sure that's a lot of the stuff he
Yep.
has. I've gotten lucky through like mystery boxes, getting a top hit, awesome. Like that's a big reason. And then that trade that I had to do to get some like the ghost face, things like that to get some of these. But I feel like if you're looking for grails out there, I did want to mention this. If you're looking for grails and you want to get a grail, I feel like mystery boxes is probably like the easiest way to get one and
Yeah.
usually the cheapest, but the hardest in the terms of like you may not get it right away, because you're not always going to get a top hit. But if you get a box for 40, $50 and you get a $300 pop, that's awesome. But other than that, I guess trading and like, or even looking at it like saving instead of buying 10 or 15 common pops, just save everything you were going to put towards that. And then you can just buy one grail if you really like love that one and you really want to go after that piece. And I feel like that's kind of like what I tried to do because I'm not going to just drop five, six, $700. Like the Joker, the
Yeah.
Bank Rocker Joker 2-pack is never going under $1,000. And it's a 2-pack glow in the dark. And I'm like, I'm not gonna ever pay $1,000 for
I-
one
I'm
unless
totally
I
there
want
with
it.
you.
Like yeah, it's just crazy. So, and I know people who do, and if you can, obviously do it, and if that's what you love, and you get the really exclusive stuff. But I mean, like if you want an example, like I have this entire wall of out of box pops, which value wise basically means they're not really worth much. Obviously, they're worth something, but not worth
Yeah.
much. There's a few grails in here, mid grails and like stuff that's worth over 50, 60, $70, but I don't even have the box for them. I'm not freaking out because at this point it's like whatever, I just have it. But it's just I guess depending on how you are as a collector, like grail wise will be something different. But what do you think should be like? What do you think is going to be like a grail? Do you have any pops off the top of your mind that like maybe they're not girls yet, or maybe something that's going to come out that you think will do like what Carnage did and get super popular?
It's funny. I have one pop that I actually have in my collection that I do think ultimately is going to become a grail. And I already think it's starting to a little bit. So one of the ones I really like to collect are the Disney Parks lines. And there
Mhm.
is one of, for anyone who's familiar, there's a ride in both, Disney World, Disneyland, Splash Mountain, that it's a log flume ride. It's based off of the movie Song in the South, which is like Disney does not speak of that movie, but it kind of no. A lot of people don't even realize that in the theme park unless you're a big Disney fan. It's kind of like, oh, these characters from this ride. So there's I guess it's a pop ride is what they call it, of the
Yeah.
characters within this log flume. Weirdly enough, I got it when I went to Disneyland the same trip when I went to San Diego.
Okay.
And I met
So you
the
came
Funko
back
people.
with heat.
I
So you
came
came
back
back
with
with the
heat.
heat.
So it's funny. I really wanted it. You can only get it in the parks. And at the time, it kind of was sold out. And then I happened to see it in one of the stores when I was there. It's like, oh my God. And I had to get it. I just want it because I just love Disney parks. This year, they've announced that ride is being rethemed to Princess and the Frog.
Yeah.
Want basically just, because the movie it's based off of, it just isn't, it's
Yeah. It's not the best. And
not the best. So I think if you're a huge Disney collector, you're going to want that. And it's, going to be no more. And that I think is definitely going to make it a Grail, because Disney's not going to really make merchandise of that at all anymore. And it's just going to keep going up because there aren't going to be new things of it. So I think
yeah.
that is going to become a Grail, and stuff like that kind of does help things being Grails.
Yeah. No, that stuff. I feel like what's crazy is like some of that stuff seems like it should affect it, and it usually does. And then sometimes you think it will, and it doesn't. Like I feel like one of the ones off the top of my head, very normal, common pop, but for like 2 seconds was very popular in terms of people thinking it was going to go up in value, was the Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah.
Like once they dropped the name and they were like, oh, it's just Potato Head, everyone's like, oh, you have to have something that says Mr. Potato Head. It's going to be super expensive. That pop is still like normal, common price.
Dude,
I feel like it thought it was going to. And it
that
just...
pop actually was at Target the other day for $4.99. But I agree with you.
That's so funny.
I'm not gonna lie. When that was announced, me and my wife were like, "Oh, should we get our son like just a Mr. Potato Head? And like, why not just to get it?" And it was just like, would this be worth money one day? Like, get an extra one? And it's just like funny. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
that just didn't hit.
because it could have. It totally could have been a
Yeah.
reason. It could have been like, it doesn't exist. Because the way I looked at it, it's like the name, not even because of the name change or whatever, just that what you see physically on the box is going to look completely different. It's going to say something completely different.
Exactly.
So like, yeah, it's a pretty cool idea of like, this is valuable in the sense of it's limited to whatever it is. But I guess maybe because it was such a normal common pop and there was probably so many of them that it just didn't really hit. But it's interesting. That one that you were talking about, that seems like it probably would be. I feel like there's a lot of one right now, actually, and maybe it might be because you mentioned that there was an anniversary of it. But so my wife, since she doesn't collect, probably similar to like yours, doesn't really collect anything, but her favorite movie is The Little Mermaid. So I actually got her, I want to say, almost every Little Mermaid pop, besides some of the newer like versions that they've been coming out with Ariel and stuff, but like the OG ones and those, like she has majority of them. Pretty much almost all of them, she has them out of box. They're common, nothing crazy, they're not super valuable, but she does have two that have been skyrocketing in price. No idea why. Like I said, maybe the anniversary or whatever, but it's kind of random. One is, it's like I don't know if it's a movie moment or it's a deluxe, but it's her up on the rock with the water hitting the back. So that one, she also has out of box, does not have the box. That one's actually pretty damaged because my daughter has dropped it at one point. I feel like it got messed up and you had to like put it back together type of thing. So that one's like in the 50 range. Like it plays around. No, actually it might have gone up to like 70, which is kind of nutty.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's crazy. The only one she has in the box, and when I got it for her, I got it for $40, and I want to say retail was close to that. It's a movie moment, which normally they're a little bit more pricey anyways, and it's the kiss the girl
in the boat
scene in the boat, which is an awesome pop, super like detailed. You got the little fish and the water squirting up and the two of them. Awesome. Her favorite scene in the movie. So I got it for her. She loved it. And I was like, keep this in the box. So it has a Target sticker on it. It was an exclusive at the time, whatever. I got it obviously way after the fact. And that pop now is like $140. Wow. And it has continued to skyrocket. So it sat, I want to say roughly like around 100 to 120, maybe. It pretty much has been there for a while. And then recently it's gotten up to like the 140 range. And I'm like, why is this going up? She still has it in the box. It's not the best box because one, those bigger boxes are hard to keep perfect. Two, I have a 2-year-old daughter that also loves The Little Mermaid now, and
it's a toy,
sees it and grabs it. And yeah, so like to this day, I have given her pops. Actually, this is kind of a funny story, and it kind of has to do with Grails in a way. So I give her pops, usually cheap stuff that I know is not gonna go up in price, right? And I have a couple pops that I would always keep on my desk that she always would grab. Always would grab. She would come in, she grabs them. They're like bobblehead because they're Marvel. So it's a Thanos, just a basic normal Thanos. It's a Hulk, but he's like a little bit bigger because it was part of that like 2-pack with him and Bruce Banner.
Yep.
Or not a 2-pack, but it was like a special the Marvel box. That one. And then I have a Black Panther that's not even a pop. It's
the wobbler.
It's like a wobbler thing, right? So she loves them. So I ended up just giving them to her. I was like, just keep them, put her all her toys instead of her having to grab them. I was like, I'll just give them to you. So the same thing happened with a pop a while ago, and it was a Vision pop, which $13, $14, like it was nothing. The only reason why I gave it to her is because I had it out of box. Don't even have the box for it anyways. But up in my Marvel stuff's up here. Up there, it wouldn't stand. It's the one where it has like the cape.
The cape.
Back,
I have that.
and it won't
box,
stand.
Actually,
it won't freaking stand. So like it would always fall down, and I was like, I just can't. Whatever. So then she saw it at one point. She liked it. I was like, here, take it. And I think also because the Marvel ones are bobbleheads, she also likes them because they obviously like move around and stuff. When WandaVision came out, the price on that thing went crazy. 70, $80. And I'm like, what? And I was like, one, for a pop that she has easily destroyed in the sense of just playing with it and dropping it. Two, I don't even have the box for it anyways, even if I wanted to like say, okay, let's keep this as a collectible. And I was like, what? And it's still there. It's like 60, $70 now. And it's hilarious.
Well, it's funny. I've noticed that's happened a lot with, because I know we've talked about the collector boxes that they used to have. They still do the Marvel one, but I remember, I got the Marvel and the Star Wars one. I loved those, but everyone in the community was kind of like, hey, Funko's mass producing these. Like anyone who wants a subscription can get the subscription. Like these aren't going to be limited. Yeah, they're not going to be worth anything, even though like they have a sticker on it, this and that. I don't know if it's because most of them have been canceled besides the Marvel, but I've noticed like when I look at the PBG for some of them, they've gone like all of them are kind of have a pretty nice value. When people are kind of like, yeah, these are going to be worth like nothing. They're just fun, which I like. I'm not in collecting I do it for fun, not for the money, but of course it is just interesting to see that a lot of people made a point like these are going to be worth nothing. Who cares? And now they seem to be sought after.
Yeah.
Do you find that interesting?
I was going to say, I think because with the DC box and those, so what was it? It was the Marvel, there was DC, Disney, and Star Wars, correct? When originally it was all of them. So the Disney and the Star Wars, they no longer do. Nope. And DC.
Yeah, they only do the Marvel.
So with Marvel, what I noticed, maybe because they are still doing it, is there are a couple that obviously are valuable. Like I said, there's a Captain America one that is like a really good value to it. But for the most part, the Marvel ones don't have
so the Star
much
ones
value.
Must be the ones I'm seeing.
But it's probably because it's probably there's a few of them, but I think more often than not, it's probably those 3 boxes that were canceled, like you said, because and it was crazy is that even if the box continued or canceled, it didn't matter because that one box wasn't being made again. Like once they dropped it that month, that was it. Unless they had stock and they like resold it at like clearance price or whatever. But the pop itself was still limited to however many of that box they had. So it shouldn't have affected it if the whole box stopped being made. But we know, like we're talking about it now, like values have such weird ways of why they go up and down. And some of the Marvel ones definitely have gone up, but I can say there's a lot of the Marvel ones that have like literally no value. Okay. It just kind of depends. Like the Luchador box, those pops, you can't even give them away to somebody. Right. So it's like, so I guess it depends on which one it is. But those Star Wars ones probably make more sense because they really don't make the box, haven't made it in a little while now. So I guess having the sticker maybe adds to it. Like, okay, look, this is a cool, it's the bounty. Was it the bounty?
Yeah, Smuggler's bounty or something?
Yep. So it's like cool to see that sticker because you're not seeing it in a newer pop. So chances are that pop's going to be a couple years old anyways. That already kind of adds to it. So I guess that's probably like the big reason why that happens. But yeah, I mean, Grails are crazy, man. I mean, it's a thing that's going to be around. We're going to continue to deal with them. We're going to continue to try to get them and sought after. And we're going to see some of our pops that we have now that aren't really worth money being more
Worth money.
expensive,
Yeah.
so it's crazy. I know when things come out, a lot of times a clue is if you have like an old pop and then there's another movie coming out, like a sequel, like Spider-Man, for instance. Spider-Man's coming out. If you have an older Spider-Man pop, hold on to it because the Spider-Man hype will be big, and then chances are your pop's value will go up. That doesn't always happen. Like I've seen it where it's like doesn't get affected at all. But I feel like that's a big thing that people usually say, or at least it's like a initial like
I've also
reason.
noticed too, another sometimes is like a first appearance of something from a big IP that gets a
Yep.
standalone. Like we've talked about it before, but I have the Mandalorian pop. It was the first one made before they made a line that went to New York Comic Con. That one has some pretty decent value now. And like I
Very,
didn't even like
very, very.
think of that when I got it. Like that's just the one I wanted from New York Comic Con because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And I knew at that point they were going to make, and as they have, I think the Mandalorian line is probably one of their biggest lines that they make now.
Yeah,
But
no, yeah.
it was the first time they made a Mandalorian pop before anything came out. So I feel like that will also add to grails and value for anyone who's like looking like, oh, should I grab this pop? Those are good
Yep.
indicators.
Yeah, that's true. That's the first time one is definitely a big deal. The re-release of one that's like for some new movie or whatever is definitely like another thing. But yeah, the Mandalorian one's that one's like so hard to get now, and like if you do, it's ridiculously priced, and it's like you said, and it's not like anything special. Like the mold is pretty basic. Like they've come out with some other ones I feel like that look cooler.
There's better molds, yeah,
but they're just more, they're not as sought after because it's not as limited or whatever, especially with con stickers, which we went over the sticker thing before, because that also could make a grail. If the sticker is actually the con versus the shared, the exact same pop could be considered a grail because it's worth a couple $100. I think one of the craziest is like these Pokemon pops that have been coming out, the glitter ones that are in the hundreds, and it's for the regular one, and then the shared sticker is worth like nothing or a decent amount, but nothing too
and the
crazy.
normal looking ones of the Pokemon are way cooler than the glitter ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
like
crazy, man. It's really that limited thing. I know stickers has to do with it, and it's not even the limited the limited number thing makes sense, and that obviously will make it crazy price, but it's just the limited part that it's just one that has this versus that. Like
yeah, which speaking of the stickers, which I know I went off last week, I got my 2 Disney pops from the con, and they did not have they had the shared retailer stickers from Funko.com, which makes no sense.
No sense. And so let me show up my grail here before we finish up. So this one is, so like I said, this is my second most valuable pop that I own. The most was one I already showed off to you guys, which is the bank robber Joker in another episode. This one's pretty cool because it has a cool like story to how I get, well, not even a cool story, but like how I got it. But this is the Green Arrow. So this is the OG one. So a cool thing about this obviously is you can tell, like you said, the mold, very basic. They've made the newer Green Arrow like show ones, and they're super detailed. This is like the original like comic looking one. And even the tops and the DC universe up there is cool because you don't really see that much often. This is only number 15 in the DC line, so it's very old in a sense of like early on. It actually is one of the OG bottom. It doesn't even say the date. Like it's the stamp was like so basic on these. And but yeah, this is super cool. I got this in a mystery box. So this is like I said before, this is not one I went out. This is PBJ value right now. I think it's like 320. Fluctuates on it. I've seen it go up a little bit, go down a little bit, but 320 usually sits around that price. But I got this in a mystery box, and it was super cool because it was just like a $50, $50 box, maybe something like that. And I also got like other pops and stuff. And this was actually the top hit of that box, which was really awesome. Because I never, like, I've gotten hits and they weren't the top hits, but it was a cool pop, something that fits in the collection, or value wise, I get money back. But this was very valuable. I didn't know at the time. I looked and I saw it, and I was like, because the back of this is like the real OGs. So you can see like the Batman, the Robin, and all that kind of stuff, the Riddler. So it's super cool. The box isn't the best. I mean, it's got some creases going down this side and on this side, but I mean, it's been in this hard stack. So like, it's an old pop, but it's cool. I like it because I'm never gonna get rid of it because it's got awesome value. And like I said, it's one of the ones I pulled. It's one of the biggest ones I pulled in a mystery box because the only other pop that I have that's worth more than this, I ended up having to actually purchase through, a good friend. But this one was, yeah, it was something I got through a mystery box. So it was actually pretty cool. So like I said, do mystery boxes.
Yeah.
I want to actually talk about mystery boxes at some point. I know you don't really do them too much. Obviously, I'm more of like a YouTuber and content creator. So it was a big deal with me growing my channel, but I wanted to kind of go over some of those things at some point because I think it's interesting, like the aspect of mystery boxes. And if you're a brand new collector, I definitely think it's something you could do to help you grow your collection, especially get some grails. Hopefully it's a risk, but
Yeah, I feel like I got to get
least
myself a mystery box. But I do definitely think it's a great way to start a collection. I feel like
starting collection for sure.
I haven't gone towards them yet because it's like, what if I get like nothing I want, or I have, like I already have them, but it's still pretty fun. And I mean, yeah, I'm sure all you've seen some of Miguel's videos. I mean, they're cool when you open up some mystery boxes.
Yeah, it's exciting.
You don't know what you're gonna get. It's cool.
It's
really just
exciting,
it adds to the excitement of like the sodas. So it's just
Yep.
everything else you kind of, it's just funny because I used to collect these. They were called Disney Vinylmations. Disney, it was a big Disney collectible before they really got in bed with Funko. I think once they did, they kind of phased them out. Weirdly enough, because it's the 50th anniversary right now of Walt Disney World, they came out with a new line of them, just I think kind of to have a throwback. But I love that they were all blind boxes. They're kind of like the Funko minis that Funko,
like the mystery minis,
yeah, which I think they may have copied Disney's Vinylmations a little bit from them. I used to like the fact of like not knowing what you're getting. Sometimes I wish they did that with the sodas, but there was like, you bought a Star Wars or you bought a Marvel soda and you didn't know who you were going to get in it. You had a chance of getting like 10 different ones. Like I personally think that would be pretty cool. It does add to the excitement, but
I think just to help you out with that, I know you're growing your soda collection. There are some people, some pages, some smaller local people who do mystery boxes strictly
of sodas,
which I think for somebody like you would be cool because you probably don't have it, or chances if you don't, you can still get a chase because they sell you sealed sodas. It's just, you don't know what you're going to get out of it. Like I actually just recently did a mystery box. The video actually just went up and it was 2 pops and 2 sealed sodas. So that was cool because I was like, all right, cool, I'll get 2 pops, we'll know who they are, and then 2 sodas. And even if I had the soda, like it was sealed, so maybe I didn't have the chase or something like that. So it still makes it kind of cool. But I agree, like once you're heavy into collecting, it's kind of hard to do mystery boxes unless you're really just trying to go after a grail and you're okay with getting these other ones and maybe selling them. But early on, that's actually how I totally helped grow my collection, was go through mystery boxes. So, but yeah, so that's my grail. That's our talk for grails. Unless you have anything to add, I think that kind of summed up.
No, totally
grails. I mean, I hope hopefully we helped out. I mean, I know we kind of circled back to ultimately saying we don't know why grails are grails, but it's just, there's a lot of reasons to it. But I think it's something it's cool. It keeps you wanting to collect because value still does matter in terms of like, not that you're going to sell it, but just knowing that you have something that may be more valuable or less, out, like people more sought after because there's less of them out there and you happen to have one. It makes it pretty cool as a collector. Personally, that's how I think.
Yeah, I know. I feel like most of the grails I want are grails probably because they are so expensive and I can't really, I'm not going to just drop the, $1,000 on a piece of plastic. It's just not, that's not in me. Even I feel like if I could do it, like there's just something about it that just, I don't know, but it is fun when you get one for retail price and it does grow in value. That makes
so we'll continue to do that. But if I see a mystery box that's like heavy Star Wars or has some top stuff, I'm gonna have to let you know and see maybe you'll do your first mystery box.
I'll have to get one. Yeah.
All right, guys. So that was episode 6. So like we normally say, make sure that you guys are following us, of course, on Instagram at Collector Chatter and on Twitter as well. And our links to our personal Instagrams are here on our YouTube page. And if you're listening, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Collector Chatter. You can find all those links on our Instagram page and that kind of stuff. So whether you're listening or watching, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And we'll be back next week with another episode. And until next time, I'm Miguel.
I'm Charlie. Later, everyone.
Take it easy, guys.